This Shabbos is Parshas Kedoshim. I just want to go over a very simple idea. The Torah says in a couple of places when it comes to idolatry, it doesn't just say do not worship idols. It doesn't just say don't fashion idols, but it says al tifnu. Don't turn towards idolatry. For example, in source number 1, Vayikra Perak Yud Tet Pasuk Daled, Al tifnu el ha'elilim. Do not turn towards statues or false gods. Ve'lohei masecha lo ta'asu lachem. And molten gods do not make for thyselves. Ani Hashem Elokechem, I am the Lord your God. The Torah says later on in Perak Yud Tet, Pasuk Lamed Aleph, Al tifnu el ha'ovot ve'el ha'yidaonim. Do not turn towards ovot, ov, and yidaoni, which is two different types of superstitious magic that people would perform in order to invoke the gods, to bring down some kind of personal favor that they believed that these gods had. And Rashi says that the definition of al tifnu el ha'elilim is don't turn to them in order to serve them. But then he says ve'lohei masecha, and gods that are molten, techilatan elilim he. The word elilim is what the Torah started off with, because the word elil can also be read as chalil, which means empty or hollow. And so originally, when you first pay your attention to these things, they start off as being trifles, unimportant, insignificant things. Superstitions. But then, v'imata poneh achareihem sofcha la'asotan elohut. But the more that you focus on them, eventually this thing snowballs. And what started off as something purely insignificant becomes all-consuming. And even though this trifling thing which I had initially engaged with was such an unimportant, really insignificant indulgence, eventually it becomes all-consuming and it becomes my God. So is there a larger message than just idolatry here? Perhaps. Let's take a look at the Ramban. Or actually, before we look at the Ramban, take a look at what the Talmud says. Source number 4. In Masechet Shabbat it says, the Gemara here is talking about an interesting law of Shabbos. On Shabbos, the Gemara tells us that you're restricted about things that you're permitted to read on Shabbos. For example, you know that there's certain things you're not allowed to read. You're not allowed to read business documents, contracts, and things like that. Anything that has to do with business.
Can you read the newspaper?
Well, that's an interesting question. Are you allowed to read the newspaper? The rabbis debate this. The contemporary rabbis who dealt with reading newspapers. Some say that it's not okay because it pulls you away from the holiness of this bubble that we call the Shabbat. But other rabbis say that it is permitted. And so there's a difference of opinion, and we're not going to get into the halachic rulings today. But the Gemara does say that there are certain captions that you're not supposed to read on Shabbat. And then it says, Udiyukna atzma. Let's say you have a statue that has a caption on it. You're not supposed to read the caption. But the statue itself, you shouldn't look at even when it's not Shabbos. Because these statues were made as statues of the gods. The original, the Greeks, when they made these statues of Venus and Aphrodite, they made these statues of the gods. And so we don't want you to, the Gemara says you shouldn't even be looking at these statues even during the week. Why? Mishum shenemar al tifnu el ha'elilim. Because you're not supposed to turn towards the elilim. So turning towards them, means don't even look at them. My Talmuda, Amar Reb Chanan al tifnu el mida'atchem, which means don't towards something that's going to take, that your mind sort of pulls you towards, but is going to ultimately take you away from Hashem. There is, by the way, a practice that is codified in halacha that you're not supposed to gaze at a church or use a church as a landmark. When you're giving someone directions, you're not supposed to say, go to St. Timothy's and then turn left, right? Really, it's an actual halacha, because you're not supposed to make that a part of your focus in life. Yes, Rachel?
I know well, not for a fact, I haven't been there, but I heard that so many Jewish people go to the Vatican. It's so beautiful. I haven't been there, and I wouldn't, but they go to the Vatican, which is their main church support. So, and if you say to them, you shouldn't be going there, they say, well, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Again, right, the Sistine Chapel, it's a big Yetzer Hara for a lot of people to go to. When people ask me the question, can I go into the Sistine Chapel, there seems to be some ambiguity as to whether it's used for worship actually or not to this day, or whether it's used exclusively as a museum. But it seems like they do use it periodically for worship, and so therefore it's proper not to go into the Sistine Chapel. But not a discussion for now, okay? But anyway, the point is that don't even look at certain things because they will take your attention away from the Almighty. So the Ramban says, "Ve'amar al tifnu el ha'elilim, v'hu milashon v'im yifne levavecha." The word to be poneh, which comes from the words v'im yifne levavecha, if your heart turns away and you don't listen. We can almost translate the word yifne in this context means if you get distracted because you've turned away from something and you haven't focused your attention on the main thing. Asher levavo foneh hayom, yomar shelo yifne libo be'elilim lahamin sheyeh behem to'elet, which means don't turn your heart towards idols to believe that there's some benefit to them. O sheyavo ha'atidot asher yitnabu bahem, or that you'll be able to garner some information about the future if you use some kind of occult practice, ritual. But rather they should be totally unimportant in your eyes. And therefore believe that God's decrees will come from above, and that I'm not going to try to garner any special benefits by using talismans and statues and all of these other the tarot cards and things like that. That's the Gemara that we just read, that you're not supposed to look at the statues themselves. Don't pay attention to them at all. Why am I mentioning this? What does this have to do with contemporary man? What?
So distracted by so many things, like the smartphone and whatnot.
We have very short attention spans today, probably shorter attention spans than mankind has ever had in the history of man. I am tremendously guilty of this, so allow me to use this just as my therapy session in the next 5 minutes. It happens to me quite often that after shul, I go into the lobby or I go into a kiddush, and I'm in the middle of talking with someone, and then all of a sudden someone else grabs my attention, and sometimes even in mid-sentence I respond to that other person quite rudely. It happens to all of us, but I try my best to be as conscious of it as I possibly can. But we have, and it's, you ever see that video of the guy who has the laser pointer and the cat, and he points the laser all over the place and the cat scampers all over? We're like that sometimes. Like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? And the piniyah, the turning away from the main event, from our primary, what's supposed to be our primary gaze, is one of man's biggest problems in a modern society that is so filled with modern technology, because there is, and that's why our children have so many learning disabilities today. It's because we've passed this on to them. It's seething in our culture that there are so many distractions that are pulling people away from the ability to stay focused. Ultimately, that is also leading, and that is one of the major causes, in my opinion, of the lack of faith that we are seeing proliferating today more and more among our youth, which is young people have difficulty staying focused and meditating on the sense of purpose and the real meaning and message, the deeper message of what the life's purpose is all about. And whether or not that when you put all of the pieces together, you come to the conclusion that there is a prime mover, a creator, who put us here for a sense of purpose. It's very, very difficult when you're constantly getting distracted. And I also want to point out one other thing that I've been guilty of, and I try my best to be conscious of it. I'm home, sitting at the table, checking my email. My son comes over and says, "Hi, Dad." "Hi." "So how was your day?" And then he tells me something, and I'm saying, "Oh, very nice. Interesting. Amazing. That's great. Okay. What did you say?" And do you know how that destroys the soul of a child? Do you know how destructive that is when I do that to my wife, or when I do that to a child or to a friend? Just 1 second. Essentially, these letters mean more to me than the person who is standing in front of me. And that's a huge problem. And you know what Hashem is saying when he says, "Al tifnu el ha'elilim"? You're going to make the distractions in your life, your smartphone, is going to be more important to you than than God himself, your maker, your father, your mother, the being who made you, who cares about you, who's trying to have a relationship with you. This Elil, that nothingness of a statue, is going to be more important because you're looking at it, you're distracted by it. That's the language, Al tifnu el ha'ovot ve'el ha'yidaonim. We all have ov and yidaoni in our lives. It's iPhone or Android. Those are the ov and yidaoni of our lives today. And Hashem is saying, don't get distracted by them, because that's tremendously insulting. And in the ancient world, the smartphone were these tchotchkes that the mystics, the occultists, would make to help people feel that they were having a better life. And God says, what are you doing? Focus on God. I'm right here in front of you. Why are you wasting your time getting distracted? And I believe that could be also one of the translations of the words Velohei Masecha, Lo Sa'asu Lachem. Don't make for yourselves molten gods. You know what the word Masecha, what is another translation of the word Masecha? Masecha is what? A mask. A Masecha. Masechot, Rashanim. Right? A Masecha is a mask. That mask that I wear, where I pretend that I'm engaged with you, that I pretend that I'm interested when I'm really not because I'm distracted. Oh, really? Oh, that's so interesting. Oh, okay. That's the gods of Masecha, the gods of the mask. You may not make for yourself. God says, I see through your mask. I see exactly what you're doing, and I don't appreciate it. And everyone else sees right through your mask also. They don't appreciate it.
It's also the word masach.
Masach is a partition. Yeah. You're creating a barrier between yourself and God. Last words, Mrs. Sachachevsky?
No, I agree with everything you're saying, and I was just going to say that's why I made the choice not to have a cell phone. I don't have a cell phone at all, and it has nothing to do with, I never had a cell phone, and I don't want to have a cell phone because it has nothing to do with internet and all of that stuff. It has to do with cover habrios. I don't want to be that woman walking through Sobeys, yakking on my cell phone so that everyone can overhear my conversation. And when I get to the cashier, I'm so busy yakking that I can't even say thank you to the cashier. And I don't want to be that person that when someone is talking to me, I interrupt them to take out my phone and say, oh, I have to take this call. I was recently talking to someone and she started talking into her cell phone while I was talking to her. And I said, oh, I didn't even hear your phone ring. And she said, I was leaving a voice note for someone. I didn't know what that was. She explained to me that she can say something to then be sent to someone while I'm talking to her. And, you know, I remember as a kid hearing someone ask Moshe Feinstein a question. They started having automatic, those machines you can throw the tolls into on a highway. And someone asked him, should I better go to the person or should I better go to the automatic toll machine? And he said, go to the person, because maybe you'll hurt their feelings if only the machine does what they could do. And I remember thinking, wow, I would have thought the opposite. The person would be happy, they have less work to do. But he was saying, kavod habrios, you don't want to make that toll collector feel bad. And it just sticks with you that people are so meshubed to their cell phones that they forget about people around them.
Beautiful. Ashrecha. Yeah, blessed are you who does not have a cell phone.
Well, that's not what my kids say, because whenever they want to call me, they can't reach me. But I've seen too many instances of people acting in ways.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's very powerful.
I was just going to suggest that, Lord, if not, it brings to my mind the word panim. That the panim is really what's important.
Yes.
To give a sense, give the eye
Al
contact.
tifnu, right. Don't turn away. Don't turn your panim away.
Your panim is
Right.
what's important.
Don't turn your panim towards the statues. Turn your face towards God. Very good. Excellent. Okay. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you next week.